Sahara Desert is the second name of death, where in 1994 a person suddenly disappears from among 134 people running a marathon. Neither his body is found, nor any sign. Then, after 9 days, he appears across the border from an unknown place. This is the story of Italian police officer Mauro Prosperi, who was not even accepted by death. Welcome to Mooney Basics Videos again. Viewers, this heartbreaking story is of a police officer named Mauro Prosperi who was very fond of pentathlon. This is a sport that makes a person a master of skills such as swordsmanship, swimming, horse riding, pistol shooting, and running. This passion for pentathlon woke him up during his duty in the Italian National Police, and this was the training that instilled in him the passion to never give up. One day, his friend Giovanni Monzo told him about the marathon Sables in the Sahara Desert. It is one of the most difficult races in the world. The horror of this race is that not only do you have to cover a distance of 251 kilometers alone, but this task takes only 7 days to complete. The most dangerous thing is that during the entire race, the runner has to pick up all the food, cooking gear, clothes, and all the necessary things in his backpack and run. The organization only provides water at each checkpoint and in some cases a tent to hide at night. Mauro Prosperi and his friend Monzo both decided to take part in this race and started training to run 40 kilometers daily and reduce water intake. On April 10, 1994, when Prosperi was 38 years old, this ultramarathon began in Ziggit, a remote village in Morocco. This is the area of Tata province in southeastern Morocco where the Sahara Desert begins with its full glory. In this ultramarathon race, Prosperi and Monzo were the total 134 competitors. The first 3 days passed as expected. Both managed to cover a distance of 96 kilometers successfully. The road was extremely difficult. Somewhere there was a hard surface of salt lakes, somewhere there were rocky cliffs and sand dunes that dazzled the eyes. They started running every morning in the cold weather. The desert was so vast that every participant would get away from each other and run completely alone. The rule was that you have to find your own way and reach the next checkpoint. Everyone had a survival kit, which included a compass and a flare gun to give a signal in case of getting lost. This race had a total of 6 stages. On April 14, 1994, Prosperi and his friend entered the 4th stage. This was the longest and most difficult stage of this ultramarathon, because it had to cover a distance of 85 kilometers in just 2 days. It was afternoon, the sun was shining, and the temperature had reached 46 degrees Celsius. Prosperi accelerated and left his friend Monzo behind and went ahead alone. At that point, Prosperi saw a dust devil in front of him, and after a few moments the wind began to blow fast in front of him. After running 32 kilometers, when the wind increased, Prosperi changed his way a little and climbed on a sand dune so that he could avoid the straight direction of the wind. But these winds had now taken the form of a terrible sandstorm. During this condition, Prosperi thought that if he stopped, he would be buried alive in the sandstorm. He kept running in the middle of the storm. He thought he was looking at the trail markings, but it was actually just his illusion. In a short while, the signs disappeared, and he went miles away from the rest of the race. It was getting dark. The darkness came closer, but no checkpoint was seen. At 3:30, Prosperi realized that he was completely lost. His skin had turned red due to the storm. Blood was flowing from his nose, and his throat had swollen and become a thorn due to the continuous sand going in through his breath. Disappointed, he spent that night by a bush. He covered his face with a towel and slept in the hope that tomorrow's sun would show him a new way. The weather on the morning of the 5th day was much better. Prosperi kept running for the next 4 hours. When he climbed a very large sand dune and looked around, he lost consciousness. There was no way, no sign. As far as the eyes could see, only the sand dunes were sand dunes. By this time, Prosperi's water was about to run out. He had only one option left to maintain hydration. He had no choice but to recycle his own waste liquid and start drinking it. The 5th day's sun was about to set when he suddenly heard a voice, the voice of a helicopter.
He thought his prayers had been heard. Prosperi took out his flare gun without wasting any time and fired a signal to get the pilot's attention. But maybe nature wanted something else. The setting sun was so bright that the glare of the flare was suppressed in it. The pilot did not see him, and the helicopter was blinded. Prosperi was once again left alone in the silent ocean of death. He had realized that no one would come to find him now. Now this war was between his own courage and the merciless weather of Sahara. On the 6th day, after walking in the scorching sun for several hours, he saw an old and dilapidated building on the far horizon. It was an old shrine that had been empty for centuries. Prosperi was terrified because he thought that maybe some local people would be found here, or there would be a well of water. But when he entered inside with trembling steps, there was no living person there. In fact, there was only an old grave where silence welcomed him. Prosperi did not lose hope. He took out a small Italian flag from his backpack and put it on the roof of the shrine, in the hope that maybe a passing plane would see him. But the real problem was of hunger and thirst. His body had dried up and thorned. Then his eyes fell on the lightnings hanging on the roof of the shrine. The struggle to stay alive does not make a person do anything. Prosperi grabbed those lightnings, cut off their necks with his pocket knife, and started drinking their hot blood so that he could keep his body moist. For the next few days, he spent only on these lightnings, the butterflies he met on the way, and the small insects. In the meantime, he saw a plane far away. To get the pilot's attention, he had nothing left to set fire to. He had no choice but to burn his backpack. But fate had something else in store for him. The smoke that rose spread quickly in the fast winds of Sahara, and even this time the pilot could not see him. Today was his 7th day in Sahara. The setting sun and loneliness were killing his mental ability. He was convinced that he would not be able to get out of here alive.
This was the point when a terrifying idea came to his mind. He did not want to wait too long for his death. He wrote a farewell message to his family with the help of a coal and cut off his wrists to embrace death. He lied down in that old shrine and closed his eyes, waiting that the morning sun would not see him alive. But death also turned its back on him. Yes, due to extreme dehydration, his blood had become so thick that instead of flowing, it froze on the wound. When Prosperi opened his eyes, he was surprised to see this scene. After this incident, he realized that death has also rejected him, that his destination is somewhere else. He bandaged his wounds and came out of the shrine with a new determination. After seeing death up close in the shrine, a new power had been born inside Prosperi. He took out his compass and walked towards the distant mountains. He traveled only in the morning and evening, resting under a bush in the scorching afternoon sun, while at night he pressed himself under the sand so that the heat of the body could remain constant. On the way, he squeezed the roots of any bush or plant he found and drank bitter juice. To eat, he chewed the raw meat of the snake and small insects. His body had now become a skeleton and weighed about 15 kilograms. On the 8th day, he saw some greenery from a distance. It was a small oasis where there was a muddy puddle of water. He wanted to drink that muddy water, but his throat was so swollen that every drop was coming down like thorns. He drank the water in drops, but he quenched his thirst for the whole day. On the 9th day, when he was completely exhausted while walking, he saw some sheep in the sand. He followed those sheep to the shepherd, where a little girl was grazing them. For the first time in 6 days, he was looking at someone else. Prosperi immediately ran towards the girl, but her appearance was so scary that the girl ran away. Fortunately, the girl came back with her grandmother. The people of the desert showed mercy on Prosperi's condition, gave her shelter and food. But Maida was so weak that she vomited as soon as she ate anything. The people of the village sent Prosperi to a nearby military camp, where he was arrested as a spy. When his identification was completed, he found out that Mauro Prosperi had left Morocco and entered Algeria. He had come out 291 kilometers from his racetrack. His wife and family had given up hope of him being dead, but when his first call reached home 9 days later, There was a celebration in all of Italy. Prosperi was kept in the hospital for several days. Doctors said that Prosperi's organs were so damaged that death was certain, but his courage did not let him die. Surprisingly, even after such a horrific experience, Prosperi's love for Sahara did not end. He took part in this race 6 more times later, and once achieved the 13th position. Today, Mauro Prosperi is 70 years old, but his passion is still the same. He says that the support that should have taken his life, that support taught him the real meaning of life. I hope you will like and share this video of Money Basics. Thank you very much for your loving comments. See you in the next great video.